Welcome everyone to week 8. My name is Instructor Neville and I'm your guest lecturer for today. Last week we covered environmental issues. For the final lecture of this course we will focus on the possible future of international politics. We will cover the growth of terrorism, the rise of globalization, the shifting power in international system, and finally the possible demise of the state. We have covered an awful lot over the last 8 weeks. So far we have focused on how history and precedent have established the present. But as we covered in week 1 of this course, a part of international relations theory is to predict future events and prescribe solutions. Today we are focusing on change. One of the most radical shifts in international politics has been the rise of international terrorism. It cannot be denied that terrorism has been incredibly disruptive. The question remains on how effective it will be in achieving its goals. ISIS has pushed the boundaries of what it means to be a terrorist organization by claiming territory for its own. Traditional states are fighting back against it, but many states have changed their views on terrorism because of this increased threat. This is especially true in Turkey, which is significantly cracking down on civil liberties, and Europe, which is struggling with the huge numbers of Syrian refugees trying to get in. There has been a crackdown on civil liberties because the war on terror has no definite ending. What costs are we willing to pay in order to feel safer? States are struggling to combat them, but there is a possibility that if they start to act more like states, then states may be able to combat them more effectively. Finally, the greatest fear is that a terrorist group would get their hands on a weapon of mass destruction. They are far less likely to act rationally and are therefore more likely to use it regardless of the consequences. The deterrent tactics of states may not work. But so far, the stronger these groups have become, the more serious the international community's response to them has been. While they pose a threat, they aren't outside the limits of states. Globalization to some is the most important long-term change taking place at the moment. There are ever more complex international connections between states. Technology and education continues to spread, but is this a revolution or evolution? Are states being left behind? Is globalization bigger than states? New issues like human rights and environmentalism have moved them towards the center of the global community. Well, this process is nothing new. Trade and immigration, as well as the exchange of ideas, has been going on for hundreds of years, while the state has been changing at the same time. What is possibly new is the lack of control over these changes that states appear to have. Building a wall along the border with Mexico seems like a very outdated attempt to restrict the flow of people. But as this example suggests, not everyone is happy with this process. Some people and countries are fighting back hard against this process. While the international economy is relatively strong, there are fewer downsides to this process. If it were to dramatically shrink or stumble, states could look to protect their citizens. We have looked at power throughout this course, and it should be clear that America is the most powerful country in the world. There are, though, concerns that they are slipping. China is having a meteoric rise, especially economically. This can even be felt in our cinemas, with more and more Hollywood movies catering towards a Chinese audience. While America spends significantly more money on its military than China does, China is becoming more militarily aggressive internationally. An excellent example of this would be the claims to the whole of the South China Sea. But would it be so bad, though, if China replaced America at the top of the food chain? If we prescribe to realism, it shouldn't matter who is at the top, because they will act in the same way. Liberals, though, could have far more to fear. China is an authoritarian country with a bad human rights record. If they become the most powerful country in the world could become a lot harsher. The handover could also not be smooth. There is a possibility there could be a conflict as the two draw level with each other. Considering, though, that both are nuclear powers, at worst I do believe we could return to something like the Cold War, where the competition would be indirect. Finally, let us turn to the most far-out idea, and that is the demise of the sovereign state. Due to globalization and the variety of issues facing the world, the model of the state could seem to be increasingly outdated. With the UN and other international organizations, the state may become less essential. Multinational corporations are increasingly running the world economy, and as such have more at stake in international politics. Now it is not clear how this will look, or if it will ever happen. For a realist, it is a particularly hard pill to swallow. The consequences could be dire if we look at the weak or failed states today like Libya or Syria, but it could also be more peaceful and productive, as states are often the ones that drive conflict and competition. In conclusion, change is inevitable and will continue to take place. We can never know for certain what will happen, but hopefully throughout this class you have seen the impact of change on the world. I would like to thank you very much for following along over the last 8 weeks, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of your time at Grantham University.